For better or for worse, there's an easy way of describing what is good and bad about the adaptation of Blue Period. It's not really a story that immerses you in its characters, but rather, it's a documentary. From the first couple episodes, I could tell this anime was blazing through its source material at a rapid clip. It just felt like each character arc and major plot point was shot out of a machine gun, constantly hitting you with these big payoffs without building up to them or letting you rest much after. Like the main character would overcome the hurdle in front of him only to be immediately preparing for the next jump. Perhaps not a bad metaphor for the struggles of being an artist, but as a story, it doesn't offer much of a window into the lives of these characters. Its form of storytelling is like reading off a bulleted list of key moments that overall tell a full and clear story, but they come off as informative of an artist's life rather than an evocative story that has you connecting and emotionally responding to these characters, wanting to see them succeed or at least better themselves. This isn't necessarily a bad thing about Blue Period's anime, because it's still an engaging watch. Being able to understand Yatara's struggles and getting the process of how he overcomes them is really fun. I just kind of hate how every time he sits down after finishing an assignment, his teacher screams, like, alright, Blue Period, I get it, art is hard and stuff. I just wish I had time to appreciate what was happening before moving forward so quickly. Like in episode 2, when Yatara and his mother are having a heart-to-heart about emotions and stuff. It's like, yeah, nice scene, cool, but I've known this character for about 30 seconds, so I don't care. This is why the episode centered around Ryuji, or Yuka, was the best episode by a pretty significant margin, because this was the one time where Blue Period lets us actually see who these characters are as people, and it's a much needed break in the competitive and intense final stretch of the show. And their struggles with identity make a nice parallel with expressions through art, which helps further Yatara's character development. This is a really good episode. Not only that, but Yuka is a very fascinating character. Definitely my favorite here. Because not only is this the one character I felt like I spent actual time with, aside from just making art and what it means to them, but their issues with gender identity are very interesting and portrayed as some real shit. Basically, the problems I have with this anime don't apply to this character. This seems to be the one thing they got right, if nothing else. Because for all this anime talks about art and making it, that sure wasn't a priority for whoever ran this production. I know this probably isn't even in the top 20 or 30 worst looking anime of the last year, but it still presents itself with such stiffness, such a lack of life and detail. Characters are minimally animated and horribly emotive. The voice acting has to do all of the carrying to convey what's being said. And that makes the character designs look so bland, despite having some really strong illustrations in the manga. This is especially where people were probably screaming at anime watchers to read the source. This adaptation reminds me a lot of Grand Blue in how that was a super duper hyped manga that got a flat, underwhelming adaptation. But Grand Blue is my favorite manga of all time, and as I say about its adaptation, a 5 out of 10 adaptation of a 10 out of 10 manga still leads to a 9 out of 10. That score is not what I gave Blue Period. I gave it a 7 because these are very different series. But they share pros and cons with their adaptations. They don't animate the source properly, but they still retain the good parts of it. And the good parts are really good. Like I said earlier, this anime feels like it read off a checklist of a critical story and character moments that needed to happen without much regard for anything that connects them together. And therefore, Blue Period has a lot of cool things to say, but resonating with its messages might not be easy. It's like it needs to apply itself better. Huh. Maybe I should do that. Oh, sorry. I was just talking to myself. So, yeah. Goodbye.